Hi guys, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a mixed bag of feelings, brimming with both excitement and trepidation at unboxing and reviewing my first ever scale painted figure, namely the Revolve 1/7 scale painted figure of Shikinami Asuka Langley from the Evangelion 3.0+1.0 Thrice Upon A Time movie. Excited because this is the first upper tier scale painted figure in my collection, yet filled with trepidation for fear that my high expectations for this Asuka figure isn't met. Upper tier 1/7 scale painted figures can certainly cost an arm and a leg. As such, it's important for collectors with a finite budget to not end up with an expensive dud. Hence my apprehension, because such a dud would only compound my heartache considering my budget constraints. But I digress. Let us get to the unboxing now. For starters, the box Asuka comes in is the largest one yet I've had to handle. One way you can tell the relative box sizes of the figures I'm reviewing is by using the azure colored cutting mat for scale comparison. Being the same one I've used for all my videos so far, it looks smaller than usual because I've had to set the camera further away from the work table to accommodate the larger box size. This is the movie version of Asuka, which can be viewed through the clear plastic on the front and right side of the box. Although not much of her is actually visible, seeing that she's covered with semi-opaque sheets almost everywhere except her head. That's the view on the front of the box. On the left side is a blown up photo image of Asuka showing off details on her front as well as parts of the base. Meanwhile, on the back is a more zoomed out front view of Asuka as well as images highlighting the back of her hair and her buttocks area. As mentioned earlier, the right side has a clear window plus an image of Asuka's upper half, which brings us back to the front. With the customary quick view of the box art complete, it's time to unbox this scale painted figure of Shikinami Asuka Langley from the final Evangelion movie. Being a pre-owned figure from Ami, it had a rating of A for item and B for box, which meant it's supposed to be MISB or mint in seal box. Ami's comprehensive rating system for its pre-owned figures was a key reason why I finally built up the courage to risk dipping my toes into the second-hand market. Anyway, with the tape seals cut, it's time to get this Revolve figure out of her box. As you can see from the front window, not only does Asuka lie protected within plastic blisters, but she's also covered with lots of semi-opaque plastic sheets. In addition to providing some protection for fragile parts, these sheets most likely help prevent paint transfers from occurring between different parts or sections of a newly minted figure. Well, I can't wait to get Asuka out of all this plastic, so let's get started. As silly as it may sound, this is the most nervous I've felt in a figure unboxing yet. For starters, her 13,000 yen price tag makes her the most expensive figure in my collection to date. That coupled with the fear of damaging her in the unboxing process, she is after all a much larger figure than I'm used to handling, makes this a more nerve-wracking unboxing experience than usual. Let's get the plastic blisters out of the way first and get to Asuka herself and that huge elaborate base she stands on. There's certainly lots of semi-opaque sheets covering both Asuka and her base. The sheets are wrapped around her body, limbs and hair with only her face left untouched. It's likely these sheets help protect the paint job from scratches and damage, as well as possibly prevent unwanted paint transfers from occurring between parts of a newly minted figure. Either reason would help explain why her very elaborate brace is also completely wrapped up in the semi-opaque sheets. There are only two separate pieces making up this Revolve Evangelion vignette, that is Asuka herself and the base, so I expect the assembly process to be pretty straightforward. But before I do that, I'll give both pieces a once-over so that you can have a close-up look at the details. And since Asuka is a 1/7 scale figure, a large figure with an elaborate sculpt, there's certainly plenty of details to look at. For the once-over process, I've zoomed in closer in order to get a better view of the details on the figure as well as the base. And it'll help that I'm doing the once-over before attaching Asuka onto her base, because I can better manipulate them as separate pieces to show off their details. Starting with Asuka herself first, initially partly due to her predominantly white plug suit, I found my eyes drawn to her vivid orange hair. And if you think about it, design-wise, it makes sense that her hair be a focal point, as there's only so much you can do with a white plug suit. The back view best exhibits the intricacy of her hair. Painted in varying shades of orange, Asuka's hair also comprises numerous long flowing tresses, giving her hair both depth and volume, a look topped off with the pair of red hair clips. While there's only so much you can do to make a white plug suit look visually interesting, Revolve did an excellent job in preventing the plug suit from becoming just an afterthought. The mixture of red metallic, black and grey stripes improved the plug suit's aesthetics without overwhelming its plain white hues. Meanwhile, the soles of her feet are in metallic red, with 2 holes on the left foot and 1 on the right, which are meant to slot into the relevant pegs on the base. Another important box that Revolve ticks is the likeness of the figure to its anime equivalent, namely Asuka Langley. So that's the figure of Asuka herself. Let's move on now to the elaborate vignette base that she'll stand on. With a glossy round piece as its foundation, the base has a simple vignette comprising broken and bent steel beams rising out of a mass of blood red organic matter. More importantly, both the cross-shaped beams and the organic mass are not random details. They bear meaning related to the story of Neon Genesis Evangelion. While both are painted in red, the steel beams are in a matte dull red, while the organic mass is in a glossy vivid red hue. As such, they have been sufficiently differentiated to appear visually distinct from each other. Now comes the part that I'm dreading a tad more than usual, that is the assembly process. Why so? Well, this is after all my first ever upper tier scale painted figure, hence my nervousness in accidentally scratching the figure's paint. Just the simple fact that Asuka's metallic red soles will have to be slotted into the metal pegs on the base are enough to make me apprehensive as hell. Because the base is so heavy, I'm going to place it on the work table and try attaching Asuka to the base by holding on to her legs and exerting a downward force onto the base itself. Needless to say, after aligning the holes of her feet to the metal pegs on the base, of course. It's not so obvious from this angle, but if Asuka's legs are left untouched, the holes on the soles of her feet are actually unable to align exactly with the metal pegs on the base. So what I'm doing to resolve this is to first insert her left leg, which has the right foot with 2 holes on it, securely onto the base via the 2 metal pegs. This provides me with a solid anchor point to do what I need to do next. That is, with the left foot secure on the base, forcibly bend her right foot or leg towards the other peg on the base. There's enough flex on the legs to allow this necessary realigning process, which allows Asuka to be attached securely to the base as you see here. With assembly complete, let's move on to a full 360-degree view of Asuka. While Asuka stands at about 23.5 centimeters from the bottom of her feet to the top of her head, the entire vignette measures at 27 centimeters from the bottom of the round black base to the top of Asuka's head. So in terms of size alone, the Revolve 1/7 scale painted figure of Shikinami Asuka Langley certainly has shelf presence. However, size isn't the sole contributing factor to the figure's considerable shelf presence. Everything about this vignette hits just right in a way that perhaps only an Evangelion fan can truly appreciate. All the way from the red organic mass and cross-shaped steel beams that Asuka stands on to the way she is posing in her plug suit, there are details that tell me the sculptor Nobuta understood the source material the subject matter is based on to an intimate degree. As such, for me at least, this is the quintessential figure of Asuka. That being said, I believe this figure still has an extremely attractive appeal to the average anime enthusiast who may not be an Evangelion superfan like me. Asuka is one of those rare figures that stand out despite having a simple color scheme. Sandwiched between the oranges of her hair and the reds of the base, Asuka's white plug suit still manages to shine despite its simplicity. This is a testament to the figure's excellent color coordination. Anyway, let's now delve into a close-up look at all the little details that make up this Asuka figurine the beauty that she is. Starting from the top, Revolve begins strongly with an exquisite rendering of Asuka's long flowing hair. The combination of varying shades of orange paint and numerous locks of hair sculpted to look like they are moving independently from one another results in hair that not only looks dynamic but is also voluminous. And of course, any rendering of Asuka's hair wouldn't be complete without her pair of iconic hair clips painted in glossy red. Another detail that I would like to draw your attention to is the way that Asuka's right hand is brushing at her hair, as well as the way her hair is entwined around her right arm at the same time. This superb detail adds to the dynamism of her pose. It's a type of complexity befitting an upper tier figure in 1/7 scale. Because this is Asuka from the final Evangelion movie, she has an eye patch covering her left eye. And including her well-sculpted burnt orange hair, everything about her face is spot on in the likeness department. That is from her blue eyes to her haughty expression and to the aforementioned black eye patch. As it was depicted in the anime, Asuka's white plug suit has been sculpted to wrap tightly around her body, which is slim, petite, and of course shapely. The slimness of her body shape is a contrast of sorts that enhances the voluminous nature of her hair. This head-on or front and back view affords yet another angle to appreciate the beautifully sculpted and painted hair. And as gorgeous as Asuka's hair looks on video, it actually looks even more stunning in real life. Now, coming back to her semi-gloss white plug suit, I love how Revolve had faithfully recreated her attire in the final movie. It's a simple design that adds color to a predominantly white plug suit without overwhelming it. On the back of her plug suit, hidden behind her hair, is the number 02, and that number appears again, albeit in a much smaller font, on her upper chest area near her neck. This number 02 marks Asuka as the designated pilot of the EVA Unit 02, which is the Red Evangelion. Generally appearing in the form of stripes, the added colors consist of metallic red, flat grey, and glossy blacks. Apart from this, there are patches of glossy light grey on her breasts, glossy bright red and orange on her upper arms, glossy dark red on the wrists and the numerals on her back, while the smaller front numeral on her upper chest is in bright red, semi-gloss dark red on her chest and palms of her hands, and last but not least are some blacks on her neck, thigh and back, as well as flat greys on her neck and groin area. My seemingly never-ending prattle about the colors on her plug suit actually highlights how a simple white plug suit was made more interesting color-wise without compromising on the fact that at the end of the day, it's still predominantly white in its overall color scheme. Speaking of which, apart from the neutral colors of white, grey, black, as well as skin tones, the major colors are orange and red, while the minor color is the blues of her eye. While it's not a given, upper tier scale painted figures usually have fairly complex bases, as is the case for this Revolve 1/7 scale painted figure. Resting on a glossy black round base, the equally glossy red organic mask and the contrasting matte red steel beams all combine well to provide an interesting backdrop to a vignette that includes Asuka. To avoid any spoilers, it suffices to say that the base is a visual snapshot of Evangelion's storyline, specifically in the final act. I especially love how the base manages to convey a sense of utter destruction through the disorganized mass of organic matter as well as the bent and damaged steel beams. Yet, the lines of the beam's overall geometric shapes help guide your eyes towards the main attraction, namely Asuka herself. Asuka is actually standing on the organic mass itself via the tips of the toes of her right foot and the sole of her left foot, which are connected securely via 1 and 2 metal pegs respectively. From the base she stands on all the way to the top of her head, this Revolve 1/7 scale painted figure of Shikinami Asuka Langley has pulled off what many Evangelion figures have failed to do, that is, make a figure of Asuka in a white plug suit look interesting. Revolve achieved this feat by focusing on 2 areas to elaborate on, namely Asuka's hair and the base on which she stands. And if you think about it, these are the only 2 areas whose complexity can be expanded on in terms of sculpt and paint job. In terms of color, the varying shades of red at the bottom and of orange at the top, sandwich the predominantly white plug suit in the middle, and together with the blue of her eyes and a myriad of neutral hues such as skin tone greys and blacks, it's all just a fairly simple color scheme that's plainly well executed. There's certainly something to be said for keeping things simple for a color scheme, and this is one of the times when it works. In terms of sculpt, some of the things that Revolve did very well was Asuka's face, her hair, and her pose. Wearing an eye patch over her left eye, the figure looks exactly like Asuka as seen in the final Evangelion movie. Moreover, her self-assured pose over a scene of utter destruction, as well as the excellent facial details from her blue eye to her haughty expression, all point to a very Asuka-like vibe. Then there's Asuka's breathtaking long flowing tresses of hair, which is a perfect storm of dynamically sculpted hair, many individual tresses moving independently of one another, with each painted in varying hues of orange. Actually, Asuka's hair looks even better when seen from the back. As mentioned earlier, the dynamism of her hair is enhanced by the way that it entwines around her right arm. And similar to the proverbial cherry on top, that's exactly what those iconic red hair clips are. They have become an inseparable part of Asuka, so their inclusion here is a necessary accessory, if you will. While some pre-painted figures of Asuka tend to depict her having a wave-like and unhealthily thin body, or even on the other end of the spectrum, in that she then becomes too well endowed, I feel Revolve has got Asuka's body shape and profile down to a T. Bearing a simple pose, her body generates a pseudo-dynamic movement via the color stripes on her white plug suit, which through its body-hugging nature only serves to accentuate a slim yet shapely body profile in general. And although I have spoken at length about the fantastic base Asuka stands on, I may have neglected to mention about the cross symbol projected by the damaged steel beams. There is no religious meaning to them, as Hideki Anno used the symbol because it looked cool, that's all. Speaking of which, the base is the other area that Revolve obviously spent a lot of time on. At the risk of repeating myself, I'll sum it all up by saying that the base is superbly sculpted and appropriately painted, with the reds contrasting well against the black round base. Being what I feel is the quintessential Asuka Langley scale painted figure, and one that's not only excellently sculpted, but has a beautiful paint job too, this Revolve 1/7 scale painted figure of Shikinami Asuka Langley from the Evangelion 3+1 Thrice Upon A Time movie will be the first figure in my collection to get the highest rating of Special or S rank. As it stands at this moment in time, Revolve's Asuka figure is the crown jewel of my entire painted figure collection. While that's not saying much for seasoned collectors, it's only been 5 months since I collected figures seriously. It should come as no surprise that to me, this Revolve scale painted figure from his Evangelion Last Mission series falls easily under the must-buy category. I for one am glad that my first 1/7 scale painted figure is a keeper. If you're an Neon Genesis Evangelion fan, then not only is it a must-have in your collection, but also an absolutely essential piece that you cannot do without, if you consider yourself a serious fan, that is. Well, anyway, that's it for this unboxing and review video. I'll be checking the other figure in Revolve's Last Mission series, namely Makinami Mari Illustrious, in the next video upload. Thank you so very much for having taken your precious time to watch this unboxing and review of Asuka. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more content. Until next time, goodbye, be well, and be happy.